Money makes the world go round, even when the world has ended. In post-war societies across the wasteland, the descendants of the former United States stayed true to their ancestors by regularly engaging in free market capitalism. As the markets of the wasteland grew, formalized currencies also came into existence to create a standardized unit of exchange for wasteland goods and services. Given the breadth of the wasteland, the different varieties of people have led to different varieties of currency. So join me today as we take a look at the currencies of Fallout. In our world today, the US dollar is the most standard currency unit in which goods are quoted and traded across the globe. As of 2023, it is the most widely circulated currency on the planet, and despite the divergent universe, the US dollar mirrored its real-world counterpart. The United States emerged as a global superpower post-World War II, and yet, unlike in our world, it did not need to immediately contend this position with the Soviet Union. The US's economy continued to grow exponentially, bolstered by the foundations of American exceptionalism. Goods and services made in the US were sought after all over the world, from Nuka-Cola, Mr. Handy robots, to plasma weaponry. The wealth and prosperity created from this golden age of America's was fueled entirely by capitalism, with the US dollar subsequently holding dominion in the global international markets. And yet ironically, it was also this drive to improve the value of the dollar which led to its own demise. By keeping the world's energy focused largely on finite commodity-based resources such as oil and coal, resources that the US were large exporters of, they laid the stones for their own destruction. Very little effort was ever made into alternative fuel sources, such as electricity or even nuclear energy, which meant that once oil became limited, the world's economies, including the US's, began to stagnate. The outbreak of war in the Middle East, Europe, and finally between the US and China over these precious resources caused the purchasing power of the US dollar to lessen immensely. Ultimately, their resources were such a hot commodity that the great powers decided to set the world ablaze if they couldn't have it for themselves. In the 2 hours after the Great War, the US dollar's value plummeted to a level never seen before. Essentially, it was now basically worthless. In the wasteland markets of the post-war world, the pre-war US dollar is not considered a form of legal tender. It does have a relatively standardized exchange for bottle caps, however, the new standardized currency of the waste, being approximately worth 10 bottle caps. However, this isn't per banknote but for an undetermined wad of pre-war notes. The more the better, as the pre-war US dollar is no longer purchased because it's a strong currency, but because it makes great kindling. It can also be utilized as a cloth component for the purpose of building assorted furniture and goods. It's always hard to conceptualize this from Fallout 4's in-game engine though. Like, you'll use some banknotes to craft a sleeping bag, but in the end is it like the bed's made entirely out of money? But anyway, the only time the pre-war US dollar is able to actually be exchanged as a form of legal tender is in pre-programmed pre-war vendors. For example, the sole survivor can pay the $5,000 entrance fee to play bowling at the General Atomics Galleria. Did I mention the pre-war inflation was pretty bad? Pre-war money can also be used to play the arcade games at Nuka World, which can technically be exchanged for prizes if you win. The most useful, however, is at the Sierra Madre Casino, where one Sierra Madre chip can be exchanged for one stack of pre-war dollars, which is useful since the Sierra Madre chips can be used at their corresponding vending machines for some pretty useful items. Essentially, in the words of DJ Khaled, the US dollar played itself. In its bid to retain purchasing power by monopolizing precious commodities, the US was dragged into atomic war, which completely eliminated the global economy, rendering the US dollar worth less than the poop that wastelanders used the money to wipe away. Fallout Tactics introduced a specific form of currency for the Brotherhood of Steel, labelled as a Brotherhood of Steel scrip. However, given the fact that Fallout Tactics is no longer considered canon, the scrip has not been seen as a form of currency in any other following games. Within Fallout Tactics, the scrip was only used as a legal tender for trade and commerce within the Brotherhood of Steel's faction. Wastelanders do not recognise the scrip as a form of currency, and reversely, Brotherhood traders would only recognise the scrip for purpose of barter and trade with them. The value of the Brotherhood scrip is indicated to be on par in exchange rate for a standard bottle cap, with one scrip equaling one bottle cap. The scrip itself is comprised of a paper note, similar to the NCR dollar, although we do not know if the Brotherhood had any reserves of gold or water backing the value of the scrip. or if its value was purely based on whatever the Brotherhood said it's worth. The only image we have of the Brotherhood scrip comes from a concept art image of a $20 Brotherhood scrip bill. On it, the logo of the Brotherhood of Steel is seen with the motto, "In the Brotherhood of Steel we trust." Essentially, the Brotherhood scrip is a currency that will likely never be seen again in game. It holds value only within the local chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, so it has a very limited chance of being seen elsewhere in the Wasteland given that it's unusable. It's also from a non-canon game that Bethesda would likely not touch with a 10-foot pole. The alternate option for commerce in the Chicago area is that of a ring pool. Ring pools, or soda can tabs depending on where the world you're located, were an alternative that could be compared to the quite commonly seen bottle cap. Namely, that they were accessible but not overly so, easy to carry, and very difficult to reproduce. Ring pools were able to be used for trade within the settlements around Chicago. Within the region, they could be considered the opposite to the Brotherhood of Steel scrip, since Wasteland traders would accept ring pools, but the Brotherhood merchants would not. Ring pools, Brotherhood scrips, and standard bottle caps are indicated to be equal in exchange rate, with each one being worth one of the other. Again, since it was seen in the non-canon game of Fallout Tactics, it's likely we will never see ring pools seen again. Like the Brotherhood scrip, other scrip currencies have existed in the Wasteland, with the two following examples being the Morningstar and Cocoa Reef mine scrips. The two scrips are an alternate form of currency from the Morningstar and Cocoa Reef mining companies based in the town of Redding, which are used as a payment to their workers. The Morningstar scrip is described as a small wooden token, stamped with the company logo. The Cocoa Reef scrip is simply a scrap of paper that says Cocoa Reef $5 on it. Although they are indicated to be the equivalent exchange rate for 5 NCR dollars, in-game they're equal to 1 NCR dollar. Historically, company scrips are quite a predatory form of currency. Workers paid in scrip have very little choice but to purchase goods at the company's store, as their payment is basically unusable in any other location. That being said, in-game traders are willing to accept the script, although their intended use was meant to only be for the town of Redding itself. The NCR dollar is one that has had quite a journey since its conception. As a mercantile empire based on pre-war values of free market capitalism, the citizens of the NCR hold money and material wealth to be incredibly important, yet many don't fully trust their own government's money. In the years after its formation, the New California Republic introduced its own money to lessen the reliance of bottle caps, which held the monopoly across the wasteland. By 2241, the NCR dollar became a universal currency in the West Coast, using their gold reserves to mint coins that were used to then back their paper money, similar to the US dollar of old. However, once these gold reserves had been destroyed in the Brotherhood War, panicked NCR citizens rushed to transfer their paper money for the remaining reserves of gold. Unfortunately, they now discovered it was worth much less than it previously had been, leading to extreme financial loss across the entire Republic. The NCR government has responded by removing the gold standard completely and establishing a fiat currency. However, the result of the Brotherhood raids meant that many citizens distrusted their own government's money, preferring instead to deal in bottle caps. And this feeling remains decades and decades into the future, as NCR citizens such as Chomps in Fallout New Vegas bemoan the fact that one bottle cap is equal to 2.5 Republic dollars. NCR dollars come in a variety of forms. The lowest denominations come from $1 coins, which appear to be circulated as both a gold coin and a paper bill, and sub-denominations such as 50, 20, 10, and 5-cent coins made of silver. These particular forms of money never did appear in game, purely based on the fact that we as the player never would have really needed it. The NCR $5 bill features its founder President Aradesh on the front, with the founding city of Shady Sands visible on the back. The $20 bill honours the Rangers of the NCR, given that it features First Ranger Seth and the emblem of the NCR Ranger Corps. The $100 NCR bill features President Tandy on the front, with herself seen again on the back giving a speech to commemorate Dayglow being incorporated into the NCR. Each of the notes are issued by the Republic Reserve Bank, located in Angel's Boneyard. They also feature the signature of the current Treasurer of the Republic and head of the NCR Treasury, being John Michael Henderson. And although it was never seen in-game, cut content for a post-game Fallout New Vegas was meant to feature a $500 NCR dollar bill that commemorated President Aaron Kimball, or Chief Hanlon depending on what ending you chose, as well as the Courier themselves for the NCR victory in the Mojave. Although having hostile relations with nearly every other faction, Caesar's legion does possess its own currency, which is well circulated throughout the wasteland. Two forms of coins are able to be found being used by the legion, consisting of the Legion Denarius and the Legion Aurus. The Legion Denarius shows Caesar in his youth, as well as co-founder Joshua Graham and Bill Calhoun, who was instrumental to the legion's founding. It's also engraved with the Latin writing Magnum Chasma, or Great Abyss, representing Caesar's journey to the Grand Canyon and his conquest of the founding tribes. The denarius is indicated to be worth the same as 4 bottle caps. The Legion Aurus portrays an older Caesar alongside the bull of the legion. Visible also are the Latin inscriptions of Aeternita Imperi, or for the eternity of the empire, on the front, and Pax per Bellum, meaning peace through war, on the back, symbolizing the legion's present. The Aurus is equivalent to 100 bottle caps. In contrast to its enemies' currencies, the legion's money is technically not backed by anything other than the value of the material of the coins themselves. Legion money is made from melted gold and silver items found throughout the wasteland, which, ironically, makes the Legion possess a much more stable form of currency than the mercantile NCR. And similar to this, a planned coin was meant to feature in a Legion post-game ending. The coin was meant to be a double Aurus, depicting a conquered General Oliver on the front and an image of the courier on the back. This coin was meant to mirror that of the Vercingetorix denarii minted by the original Julius Caesar after conquering the Gauls. As uncomfortable as it is to fathom, in the wasteland, slavery is an industry that is unfortunately flourishing. Indeed, slaves are unique as they're both a product and a currency in the post-apocalyptic world. Having recently referred to Caesar's Legion, slaves are an incredibly important component to their society at large. As although they're categorized as a roving army, the Legion has already displayed a degree of aptitude for the logistics and admin in the business of slavery, seen within the Consul Officiorum Famulatus, translated to Secretary of Slavery Affairs. As the name suggests, this branch of the Legion is responsible for the acquisition and purchase of slaves. What is unique is that the office is willing to do business with non-Legion members, evident from the bill of sale given to Jeannie Mae Crawford after selling Carla Boone to the Legion. The contents of the bill of sale dictate that payment will be made upon presenting said bill to the office. Slaves are also used within the Legion itself as payment to its high-ranking soldiers and officers. Legion coin is utilized more for interactions with outsider traders and businessmen, with the currency holding little value to the average legionary, given the fact there's nothing really for them to buy. However, if a legionary rises in his positions throughout their career, they'll receive payment in better equipment, standards of living, and personal slaves. In particular, women of captured tribes are often given as payment to officers within the Legion, with Centurions seen to own a large amount of personal slaves. Outside of the Legion, slavery is a bit less of a formal currency, more so they are just considered a product. An individual might head to Paradise Falls slave camp and pay caps for a slave, but they probably wouldn't be able to pay for a slave with other goods, or trade one slave for another. The casinos of the New Vegas Strip each possess their own unique casino chips that are used for gambling within their walls. Although not necessarily a formal currency given the fact they're only usable in one location for one purpose, they do operate informally as one. Casino chips hold value matched directly to the standardized price of a bottle cap, with one chip worth one cap. However, casino chips can be exchanged with any form of accepted currency, such as NCR or Legion dollars. As such, the casino chips can be a great option for unscrupulous traders to clean their Legion money by depositing it into casinos in exchange for bottle caps. These Sierra Madre poker chips are very unique as they're used to purchase items at their vending machines found on site. And this is very valuable, as although the items are mostly consisting of food, the courier also has the option to purchase incredibly valuable items in the post-war world, such as medical supplies and ammunition. The chips can be exchanged for pre-war money as well in the Sierra Madre Casino, at a rate of one chip for one stack of pre-war money, a value of about 10 caps. The most notable form of currency in the post-war world is the bottle cap. Once the world regained a sense of normalcy, wastelanders needed to be able to trade for goods and services. The barter system was deemed too inefficient since there was no standard set price per item and no real way to regulate what anything was worth over vast communities. Wastelanders needed something light, portable, as well as accessible across the waste, but not abundantly so. And so, in 2093, the Hub, the largest trading city on the West Coast, standardised bottle caps as the new currency of the West Coast wasteland. The reason for doing so was based primarily on three factors. 1. Bottle caps were durable, easy to carry, and accessible, but not excessively so. The caps were a uniquely ideal item as the paint and metal type of bottle caps were very specific, which limited the chance of counterfeits entering the market. 2. The technology to create new bottle caps had been all but lost in the years after the Great War. Although some bottle cap production factories were still in existence, these were few and far between. The New California Republic and the subsidiary merchant companies of the nation have laid claim to all known bottle cap factories and with it, control the flow of caps into the market. By limiting the amount of caps that are able to be entering the markets of the wasteland, they're able to protect against inflation. Caps were able to be backed by more than just the metal themselves. Water merchants of the Hub were able to standardize a certain number of caps for a standard measure of water, meaning they were able to have value based on the most precious wasteland resource. And although they were severely lacking in the civil infrastructure and merchant companies on the west, the East Coast communities were able to use bottle caps as well, since they were commonly available, easily recognized, and far more durable than the paper notes of the pre-war government. Canonically, the East Coast had begun using bottle caps as money around the same time as the Hub had, as seen by the events of Fallout 76, which is set in 2096. This ultimately occurred as a happy accident between the Nuka-Cola Corporation and the White Spring Resort, as in their bid to promote Nuka-Cola Quantum, the robots of White Springs were programmed to accept bottle caps as a form of currency in what was meant to be a limited time offer. In conclusion, wasteland currencies are abundant across the entire landscape. The necessity for trade and commerce is something that could never die, as even when the world did, currencies still rose and fell in the centuries after. Indeed, you could even argue that the importance of currencies in the Fallout universe has allowed some communities to work together and restabilize the world, at least to an extent. From paper notes that are essentially based on a value of, trust me bro, I swear it's actually worth something, to actual gold coins, the economies of the wasteland factions rise and fall much the same as the pre-war nations' economies did. The only difference being that the wolves of Wall Street are now actually radioactive mutant wolves. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you around like a Rissel.